folks. Matt McQueenie, Mix Minus Podcast. It's Sunday, July 29th, just after 2 p.m. Almost into August, huh? So I always kind of joke that August is like the Sunday of the year. It's on the precipice of the week of the year, because we often think of the year as September, kicking off when schools get back in session, at least here in the Northeast. I know in other places where maybe it's warmer, they get started in August, mid-August, but here, that August gives you the full sense of Sunday, right? You go after Labor Day. I guess that's the one at the end of summer, right? And that kind of carries you through. But August always has that feeling. And maybe I expect too much from July. Maybe July is like Saturday. You always think so much greatness is going to happen on Saturday. And sometimes Sunday is the under the radar sort of thing that delivers. Sunday delivers because you're not expecting it to, because you know the next day is Monday. And once you get to the end of August and you have the football season, then Sunday is really delivering. Saturday has the college sports, but Sunday is the true point once you get to the fall where the action is. So we're just about there. We've got a couple days here, but I've had a good kind of neighbor weekend. I was never the type of person growing up who made friends with a lot of those around me. My wife is that way, and maybe that's why we are able to take advantage of the things that our neighbors have to offer. It's been quite a July for neighbors. I went to the house of one of my neighbors down the road. This is actually a friendship I've made. He goes to the local coffee place. I love Cloveberry. I've seen him there. And we kind of realized that we are neighbors because he has kids who are a little older than mine. He has 3 of them. The youngest, I believe, is 6. Maybe the oldest is 12 or 13. And then there's a son in the middle there. And I would see him at the bus stop as I'm driving on my way. You wave, and then all of a sudden you're at the coffee place. You start talking. He's a really cool German guy in his mid-40s, and he pretty much works out of his home, which I think is the dream we all aspire to, where you actually don't have to go anywhere and the money comes in. He sells something like antique porcelain, so he really has the market cornered in this business. He has just a very unassuming website, and it pretty much just lists all of these old porcelain pieces, and each of these pieces can be anywhere from $1,500 to $20,000. And there are buyers all around the world, mostly the world. There are a lot in the country, but he'll even say that these buyers will come and stay with him and kind of look over the the kind of tally of things he has, which I think he keeps in his basement. And it's just quite a business. And he, from what I hear, he clears a lot on a monthly basis. That to me is nirvana. If you have a business that is selling while you sleep, and there is a lot of interaction that you need to take part in with the business, he needs to really set up discussions. He needs to answer a lot of questions. He needs to have his PayPal store up in order and whatever other payment mechanisms he needs. But it's pretty cool if he can do it. His kids go to school in the day, and you're just home on your own, and you're making things happen. You're going to FedEx, you're packaging things up, you're speaking back and forth with clients. These clients become your friends. They buy many items over the years and over the year itself, and sounds pretty good to me. It's something that I really think is neat, but it's always hard to find that thing because he had to spend probably 20, 30 years of his life learning this and getting up to speed with it. I think his father was in the business, and this gentleman's been able to really push it to new heights because of the internet and because of the ability to touch the entire world with a simple click and really set your shops up and make yourself the one-stop place where people come to get that stuff. So we went over his house, and it's just nice to not have to plan far in advance, to go far away across the state to see friends, because then by the time you see them, you're kind of tired from the trip, from bringing your kid with you, getting your kid all set up, worrying about when's nap going to be. Are we going to skip nap today? What's that going to mean for the night? You're never really at ease. You're never really settled. And so when you can really think about the fact that you have people on your own road here, where, as I did that day, I said, hey, you want to get together later? I sent him an email. He actually doesn't even have a cell phone, which is amazing for somebody who is a self-made entrepreneur and who needs to be in contact. It's all done by email. And I guess he is able to get back to his clients in a timely basis, even without that mobile device. But I said that to him, and then you know that day you are ready to go and do some stuff. You ever notice sometimes you set plans in the future, and then you're all excited about that? You can be all excited about it right up until the day before, but then you wake up that day and you're like, man, this is just one of those days where I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out there and do a thing. And then you really have to push through, and that almost adds to the discontent you might have with the day, even though you had planned this thing and you're really looking forward to seeing your friends, but it just might not be your day. Whereas you have neighbors who are your friends, that day where you feel good, it can be a Saturday, it could be a Sunday, you say, hey, let's get together, let's see if this will work. And you know that there's not a lot that needs to go into it. You know, you just kind of get your cooler together, get some drinks in there, and walk down the street to their house. You have a little barbecue, get together, have some good discussions, and then when it's over, it's a quick walk back home. The kid's in bed. There's no other things at play here. It's just all straightforward and straight ahead, and I like it. So that is a nice thing, to become friends with neighbors, to have people who are those you don't mind spending time with, especially when they have kids too, because we went to that house and those kids, the youngest starting at 6, was taking our son around, and he was the one being bad, but she was really keeping him out of our hair quite a bit. So we were able to sit as adults and talk and just have a nice time. It really is all very, it's kind of self-sustaining. It takes care of itself. So that is something I really like. Now, yesterday, which was Saturday, we have other neighbors down the road who we have, we've had many days here and there with. We probably see them maybe once every couple of months, where we'll get together. They're about 10 years older than we are, but they have a kid who is a couple of months older than Liam. She's much taller. She's much more advanced in some physical ways, but he really likes her, and they get along well, and we get along well with the parents. And the parents actually bought a pontoon boat, just an absolutely beautiful boat. This is a world that I have never thought about being involved in. And it's funny because where I live is really surrounded by water. There's a lake in our town here, Lake Mohawk. I don't know what kind of access I have to that as somebody who's not a member of the Lake Mohawk community. I don't know if you can just kind of roll a boat in there and go out for a ride on the water. If being a member of the Sparta community allows me to do that, I'm not sure. I do know there's a limit on the size boat you can have in there, something like 19 feet, 8 inches. It's funny, these very exact numbers. So I had never thought of that. And then Lake Hopatcong is the biggest lake in all of New Jersey, I believe. It's a very big lake. 100 years ago, it was the go-to place for vacationers who would go on the train out west from New York City, from the New York City area, and they would get off on this train, and then there were all kinds of resort activities on this lake. There's all kinds of restaurants, lots of stuff to do for families and for the well-to-do. And 100 years later, it's more of a middle-class community, though there are many high-level homes around this lake, as we saw when we went on this tour for the first time on the lake. I've lived here for 7.5 years, and I had never been on or in Lake Hopatcong. I've always driven by it. I used to commute to that train station I was talking about, where many people would come 100 years ago. I would actually drive to that train station and then take the train into my job in Newark. So I would drive Lake Hopatcong every day. And every day, driving to and fro, I would think to myself, oh my God, we got to take advantage of this. The views are beautiful. There's all these restaurants along the way. Did we ever take advantage of it? No. Life goes on. It's hard to get out there and do things many times. And it was sort of my experience going up and down this road. My wife never does it for her work, and so it was sort of my little secret. But I would bring it up. We just never would do it. We got enough things going on in our town. Then when we added a kid, we're not going out at night anyway, but it's something that would be very advantageous to look into. So 7.5 years later, these neighbors say, hey, we got this boat. I think they got it last year. A beautiful pontoon boat. Something, it was, I think it was called Bentley. That was the name of it. I don't know if it's the same name as the car company. Don't believe so. But just a beautiful, luxurious boat with lounging. It was very high level, very high class boat with leather seats, nice table. We had a lunch out there. And we got on the water and we went for just a really nice ride up and down the entire lake. Saw all kinds of homes. You could really imagine living on that lake in some of these high-level homes. I was even remarking man, I would love to like Airbnb one of these homes just one day, one night, and wake up on that lake, wake up in that kind of luxurious home looking over the lake. Some of these homes had like 3 floors, 3 levels of outdoor seating outside the the terraces of the different floors. I mean, it was beautiful. And then infinity pools and just amazing landscaping. It was something to behold. It was great. And when we were looking into doing this, a part of me was like, I just want to be in my normal routine. I want to do a podcast. I want to read. I want to do my work. I don't want to go do this really. I'm not this kind of person who goes and does this kind of stuff. But I'll tell you, once we got out there, it was great. You get out in the sunshine. I put in a nice little workout in the morning. I think I'm going to cut back on the weights, by the way. I think they're just destroying me. And you reach a point where how much bigger do you want to get? And how much more do I really need to be lifting if I feel as though the day after lifting, I'm just extremely sore, and I'm so sore in certain places like, middle of the back, that almost feel like your back is broken. And then when I pull back from lifting, it's not as bad. I feel like I have very good form, but maybe it's just overuse. Maybe the muscles are just tensing so much that they're like, stop, you don't need to do it anymore. So I'm going to experiment with not lifting for a while. I'm going to do a lot of cardio. I'm going to try to up my cardio. So yesterday I did 3 miles in the morning, really just because of the time. Although I always get on the treadmill and I'm like, I'm going to do like 5 miles today. I'm going to push it. And no matter how much you tell your mind that, your body's wearing down by 2 miles. And you're like, well, maybe I'm going to get 3. Maybe I only have enough time before we got to take the little guy to swim. And so whether it was for that reason or for another, you end up not doing the 5. But then you convince yourself, hey, 3 is pretty good. But your body's breaking down. I feel like one side of my body's completely tight. The other side's loose. And so I feel as though your form is broken down the entire time you're running. But I think I'm going to pull back on the weights, up the cardio. We have a lot of cardio machines here. I got cardio at the gym. I could do all kinds of stuff. I might go back to early morning workouts too, because my injury with my back, which I had back in early November, which was just incapacitating for about a month, and it's been really gnawing at me ever since then. I have more range of motion and mobility, but I just don't have that same feeling I had before the back injury, and I don't even know what it was. I don't really want to go to the doctor and find out, because I feel like they're just going to say get surgery. And they probably won't, but I don't even want to go there and figure that out. So I'm going to really devote myself to the cardio. So I did a 45-minute Peloton bike ride as well this morning. So I'm just going to really do that. I'm going to stretch, maybe do some yoga here or there, but I'm putting it on tape here. I'm going to stop the lifting for a while. I don't need it. I'm kind of bulky, muscle wise. I don't need it. Let's see if I can kind of pare this thing down a little bit. Let's see if I can get my muscles to not be so tense, and let's see if I can get a lot more range of motion and flexibility back in play. So we'll see if cardio can do that. But anyway, I did that morning, and so when we went out on the water, it was nice. We got a couple sandwiches from a good deli, and we kind of anchored in one of these coves. And we literally just jumped in this Lake Hopatcong. There was about 13 feet. It was 13 feet deep, I'd say, where we were. And our neighbors had these different floating things you could do. I had this thing that was almost like a saddle that goes up between your legs, and you kind of just float in place there. And they had this big platform floating thing that you could sort of do whatever you want with it. Mostly the kids would stand on it, run on it, jump off of it. If you're an adult, you sink real fast, and it's quite a feat to be able to run that thing and jump off. I was not able to do it, but we literally sat in whatever our flotation device was, and our kids had either a life jacket, or in our case, our son had those floaties. So they're good. They're safe. They're just floating around. 2 hours we were in this lake, and you just have a feeling of being in the sun, talking to people. Your kids getting worn down. They're, of course, missing the nap, so you're looking forward to maybe a night where they're going to fall asleep early and then stay asleep for a long time. And it was nice, and it's a Saturday, so you still have Sunday. Everything was good, and it was a beautiful experience that you wouldn't get if you don't engage with neighbors who then go ahead and get a lifestyle thing that you maybe would never get, an experience you wouldn't get otherwise. And even my neighbor, the gentleman, or the husband, the father of the other family, was saying to me that you can actually rent a boat on a daily basis. You do have to get a license, a boat license. And it's about time I got to go do that, because this would be cool. This thing he was telling me, you can literally rent a boat. There's different packages. You could rent 3 boat outings. And the price comes down versus what it would be for one, and you got the boat the whole day. So you don't have to own a boat. You don't have to worry about how you're going to store it in the winter. You don't have to worry about anything, repairs, blah, blah, blah. I mean, don't go out there and do anything bad to it, but you could just go out there and rent a boat and go out for the day with your family. And if you get a package of 3 or 5, that's a lot of times out on a lake that you wouldn't have otherwise, and you don't have to worry about it. You just kind of get on the boat, take it out, do what you want to do, jump in the lake, swim around, have lunch, do different things, go see fireworks if it's that time of year. Then you head right back and you drop the boat off, give the keys back to the marina, and you're home free. So that is something I think would be interesting, because this opened up a whole new world to me that is literally in shouting distance of us. It was a 10-minute ride down the road, and you're on summer vacation. And I think about that a lot of times where I live. There are amazing nature reserves all around us. There's all kinds of hiking paths. There's camping. And I never take advantage of it. I just go home and I stay in my house. I go between the different floors of my house and I go into town. I go to my coffee place. I go to get sandwiches. I go to do this or that. I never take advantage of anything in my neighborhood. Maybe I'll go for a run on the 2 roads here on my neighborhood, but that's about it. And I think sometimes you got to push that, because you got to find new things that give you fulfillment and satisfy certain needs to try new things. And so that was a really good thing. And then today, I think what we're going to do with the new neighbors who moved in across the street, we're going to go to the Sussex Miners what's it called? It's like a minor league baseball team, the equivalent of AA, but they're independent leagues, so they're not actually affiliated with any teams. So there's a part of that where it's not the most amazing thing, because they're players who are sort of on the margins. They're either they didn't get drafted, or they're on the back end of a career where they're trying to get in there and get in front of people and maybe have a good run one summer with an independent team, and then see if that gets them into an affiliated organization and ultimately to get to the major leagues. But it doesn't always happen. And so there is that in your head watching it. You're sitting there going, why am I watching this? And you're not really sure. But it's something that's a great thing. It's right down the road. And what they have on Sundays is a Kids Go Free program. So I think kids who are under 12 can go free, and obviously the parents need to pay for the tickets, but you're cutting off a couple of tickets there that you don't have to pay for. Our neighbors across the street have a child who's maybe 12, or no, not 12, that would be 1 year, like 15 months, 18 months old, I think 15 months. And so we're all going to go over there together, and it's a nice thing because you're going to be seated in place, or you're going to be running around with your kids, but you get a chance to talk to your neighbors, get to know them a little more, build a rapport that maybe you can leverage at a later time to get together for drinks on a night where you don't want to make big plans, but you have cool people across the street. So you say, hey, you come over here, we'll go over there. We've even joked, my wife and I, that we could have our son go to bed, and we have the Nest video cam, which we can see from our mobile device anywhere. You just need an internet connection, whether that's cellular or Wi-Fi, and we could be in that house and we could be checking in on our son, and we're a quick hop over to our house if something happens. And, nothing ever really happens. Something happens maybe once a month where he gets up and he needs you. So it would be a quick hop, but it is what it is. So I think today we're going to go over to this minor league baseball game up the road, about 15 minutes, 20 minutes up the road. We'll maybe get some food, sneak it in there. That's the good thing, by the way, when you have kids, because a lot of these stadiums, even at these levels, don't allow you to bring food and drink in. But because you got kids, you can kind of you can hide food in the different bags you need to have kids. So you put a couple diapers on top of the food. They're not going to look that deep at it, or they're not going to worry. They don't want to. It's already a hassle having kids. They don't want to hassle you any further, especially when you're going to a minor league baseball game where there's not a ton of people in the stands. So we'll go over there. The other great thing is on this Kids Go Free Sundays, it's a perfect time. It's a 4:25 start. You never see that in baseball, 4:25 start, unless it's a doubleheader or unless it's the East Coast time of a West Coast game. But an actual 4:25 start, that's a great thing because it means your kids can get up from nap. You can slide over there. It's dinner time is in the middle of that, and then they do have a thing where they allow all the kids to run the bases after the game. So that's another cool thing. And then before you know it, you're back home. It's only 20 minutes away from home. Perfect. And this stadium actually has a really good assortment of craft beers, like $6 for a craft beer, whether it's a can or a bottle. And so you can get that in the mix. So if we can kind of sneak some food into the stadium through our kids' bags, we're going to be in the money, because I am willing to buy the concessions they have there, but they're just not that good. They're very uninspired. You're talking chicken fingers, you're talking, hot dogs, a burger. I just love if there was like one thing where it was something crafty, something nice, something a little extra that would get me excited, and they don't really have that. Now, the amazing thing is they have a phenomenal gastropub on the premises of this stadium, but you can't get into the gastropub from inside the game, even though it is hooked to the stadium. You can only get from the outside, and you can't get food from it to bring to your seat if you are on the inside. So it's sort of always there taunting you, because it's tremendous. It's got like 40 beers maybe, and it's got all kinds of great meals you could get, and kind of 10 choices you would love. And I always like that kind of situation. So I think we're going to try to kind of sneak some food into the mix there when we go to that game in about an hour and a half. So I'm into the neighbor thing. I'm trying to build it up a little. I need some friends close by. It's just too hard to muster up the travel and the wherewithal to plan with guys. I've talked about that in the past, where guys are just not good at doing it. They're a little better if they're on their own, but that's only because they're more spontaneous. Guys will just be like, hey, let's just get something together. Hey, you want to go meet in like an hour at this place? Oh yeah, that's cool. Like, we don't want to plan. I don't want to, no matter how much I love a friend, I don't want to be like, hey, on August 28th, what are you doing? They almost laugh at you. They're like, wait, what do you mean? What am I doing? Who are you? And they know that it's your wife talking to them through you. It's your wife talking through your mouth. And it's just, it's a bizarre thing. It's just not how guys go. So because you don't want to look out in the future that far, you just end up not doing it. I'm not interested in setting up a get together to go to my friend's house on August 28th. Like, I'm just not interested in doing that. I'd be interested in going to his house today if I feel good, and we'd have a great time, get some drinks going, get some whiskey, get some alcohol, get some great talking, good times. It's spontaneous. But to plan it, it's just like, it's kind of like suffocating. I don't like that. And the other guys don't like that. So we end up never talking, even though we'd love to spend time together. But neighbors, you can play that aspect. You can play the spontaneity, and it works because we're all right here. We don't have to go far. We don't have to plan. We don't have to prepare. We can go to dinner. We can go to a house. We can go here or there. It's great. It makes you not feel so, cut off from the world. And there's great people all around. I mean, it's fantastic. So we'll see how we do with these neighbors who we've gotten to know. We like them. And we had originally asked them if they wanted to go when we went couple of weeks ago, and of course when you do it through Facebook Messenger, you never know if they get the note, and so it appears they didn't, or they get it later because some people don't check Facebook as often as many of us do. Maybe they'll check it every couple days, so if they check it days later, they missed the chance because we had sent it hours before on the day we went. And of course, the funny thing with women, they always think that they're being ignored, and it never is the case. There was a funny meme I saw one time where it was like playing to this idea where I said guys don't like to plan in the future. A woman will say, oh my God, I'm going to go, I'm going to ask so-and-so if they want to get together on August 28th. And it's like, okay. And it's like, fine. And so they'll text the person. They'll go, hey, do you want to get together August 28th? And like an hour later, my wife will say to me, oh my God, I can't believe she didn't get back to me. I wonder if she's ignoring me. Why do you think she's not getting back to me? And I'm like, because you're planning something in a month and a half. She'll get to you. And they always get back to you. And it always works. But it's the weirdest thing where like a guy will text and they'll almost forget they texted. And so it's like a surprise. It's a pleasant surprise when they get a text back from the person, whenever that is. You go, oh, I forgot I texted that. We just... in one ear, out the other. That's always the case with how guys roll. So we'll see. We'll see how this works. It's going to be nice. We'll get together. I love process. I love routine. I love like finding routine in the madness. And it's constant madness with kids. It's just, that's the case. It's always their day. You're sort of a butler to the kid all the time. You're their nanny. and you always have to keep them going. That's what was great about this boat thing. It wiped them out. Because what do they say about water? It's 100 times the resistance of air. So when a kid's in the water and they're just kicking and they're moving, they're constantly in motion in something that's adding a ton of resistance. So it's just an absolutely beautiful thing. And they come out as just shot and fatigued as you've ever seen them. And that is a beautiful thing. Because then when bedtime comes, they're out like a lamp. And he woke up today sometime after 7, which for him is a tremendous time. And he'll just come kind of walking into our room in the morning. It's great. Not a big deal. Not a bad thing. Speaking of food, my wife and I finally tried a food service such as, Blue Apron, Amazon Fresh. There's not Amazon Fresh, HelloFresh, which I think is owned by Amazon, right? So we finally tried one of these, and we tried Blue Apron. We're always trying to find a way to make the food process, especially during the week, especially during the work week when the school year is in motion, and when my work time is in motion, and when there's just no time to really do anything except on the weekends or the margins of the day. We're always trying to find a way to make that easier. And it always annoys me on the weekend, especially football Sunday, when she's focused on making food for the week. So she'll make maybe 2 dishes, and those dishes can be put in the fridge or frozen for a later time, and they carry us through the week. So we'll eat the 2 things on rotating days, and usually it's something my son will like too. So it really works out. I hate it on the weekend when it's happening because it feels like it's impeding your weekend time and all this. But then come the week, it's phenomenal because you got food ready to go. You're not wasting time with preparing. You're not wasting time with figuring out what you want. It's all there. It's something you don't even have to think about again. So I thought to say to her, hey, let's try Blue Apron. We could get the deal on this. It might be fun. We could put it together. It'll be nice. And so we tried it. And we're already done with it. I think we did 3 weeks, and we only did 3 weeks of it because I was too late to cancel it for the 3rd week. So when that 3rd week came, it just did, and it was a battle for me to get through it. The first week we got it, it was good. The food's good. It's different. It's eclectic. There's all kinds of meals you can have. But here's the problem. Even when you have 2 adults, 2 parents, it doesn't have to be parents, right? When you have a couple doing the meal, it works out pretty well because they give you the times that it takes for the meals to be done. Usually it's somewhere like 35 minutes to 45 minutes or 40 to 50 minutes. 50 minutes is really the top out for most of the meals to cook. And it's because you have to prepare many things. You got to prepare sides, you got to do the meat, you got to do the marinade, you got to do this, that. It's a long process. And you really have to be very cognizant of each step of the process. It's very important because you'll miss something if you're going too quick. And if you go too quick, it will go wrong. It just really will go wrong. So we were really, the first week we were in pretty good shape because she would do a lot while I was preparing my son for bed. And then maybe I would come down and I would cook the meat if it was on the grill or maybe on the stovetop. So it wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst thing. The only problem though is one, I just don't think there's enough food. The serving is like enough where if you're dieting, you convince yourself that it's enough, and it looks like enough when it's on your plate, but you realize how much you eat. And I realize dinner time is where I really make up for lost calories. So I will eat breakfast, I will eat lunch. I'm not a big snack person, but dinner time is, I guess, where I make up a lot, because when I get the true serving of what you're supposed to have from Blue Apron, I finish it and I'm like, I could really have more. And when you finish something and you're already thinking you could really have more, that's going to be trouble. Because now you got hours ahead in the night where you're just convincing yourself you're full and you're really not full. And now there would be points where Melanie would go, here, have the rest of thine, have this. Maybe there would be 20% of hers left and I would have it. But that's not a good solution. You should have enough to be full. That's my thought. Especially if you're eating healthy food like this, freshly prepared food. You should have enough where you're full. It's important to me to feel full. I shouldn't be looking for ice cream or looking for cookies to top me off. I like ice cream or cookies as a sweet after dinner when I'm full. That's just how it is. Especially if you work out in the morning and on an empty stomach, even if you have coffee like I would do when I work out in the morning. You need to be full. You really do, because that's going to be your fuel for the morning. You're not putting anything else in you. So when you get up at that 5, 6 a.m. to work out, you got to have something there. You got to have something to kindle that fire to get you to work out. Otherwise, you're just going to be thinking about how you're hungry. And the worst part is when you think about your hunger, and it's immediately after a meal, it pisses you off that much more that you spent an hour preparing a meal that didn't fill you. And all the other piece is, we have no problem spending an hour preparing a meal, but I figure if you're going to put that much time in, you want to have enough food to get you through several meals during the week. It just feels like it's very unfulfilling, not only with how big the meal is, but with how much you put into it to make this great meal. And look, they do turn out tremendous. Every one of the dishes was tremendous, really good. Some are more basic, like there have been too many burgers for my liking, because burgers are such an easy thing to make. I want something that I would never think to make getting delivered to me, because otherwise I'm just going to be thinking about how I don't need to be subscribing to this service. So that was an issue. My wife got a little sick about the second week in. We're going through some things now. Hopefully, knock on wood, it means something in the future. We're not announcing anything yet. You never know that stuff, but I'm doing it for this story. So she was out. She couldn't even smell food or look at it. So now I'm caught in the third week cooking everything, and that is completely oppressive. I am not the person who cooks anyway. And look, I did a damn good job cooking these meals, but it hit home every day. At the point where I was cooking this meal night after night for two, it was awful. It was so much work. I'm getting hot under the collar. It's not what I'm used to. And it really is a good amount of work. It's like, you got to zest this lemon. You got to do all this. And I'm just like, I found my shortcuts that worked and everything turned out fine. And I learned some stuff for when we now want to go on our own and cook on our own. There's some new things we can add to the mix in terms of what we will normally make. So that was good. But it's just a tough thing. And it was funny because we went out with other friends the day after my birthday, and we have these friends who are from Connecticut, around Greenwich or Weston, Greenwich, Connecticut, and where we are, the midway point is Nyack. So we always meet in Nyack at this great place called, I think, the Brick House Grill. We always meet there. It's kind of a cool thing to, like, we each drive about an hour to meet. So we really like that. And the guy who works in, I think, private equity, he was telling me that he has a client who used to work at Blue Apron. And this client was saying the big problem with Blue Apron and these services is that it's one of the few subscriptions, unlike a Netflix, for instance, or a magazine subscription. It's one of the few subscriptions that remind you on a weekly basis that you're subscribing to it, because it's dropping off what is essentially rotting food on your doorstep each week. And it's always reminding you, like I always say about how when I subscribe to a magazine, I need to like finish it each week. Otherwise, it becomes something that gets that overtakes my being, that I have to finish it each week. When you think about it with food, not only do you have that thing where you're like, I got to get the value of this, because it's like $60 a week for 3 meals. Not only do I have to get the value of this, but it's rotting food. So it's like a subscription that's going to go bad at the end of the 7 days for the most part. And it will. They give you a 7-day fresh guarantee, but it is food that gets dropped off in ice bags, and then it's going to be gone by the end of the week. You got to get rid of it. So it's always on you to have to take care of it. So that was kind of a funny thing he said. I also read something about robots being the killer apps in food preparation and restaurants and all that, where the price of a high level hamburger, say it's $18, comes down to $6 if you take humans out of the mix. It's an amazing thought when you think about it. And it got me thinking, and it's funny, there's actually pizza robots, and you know what they call them? Doughbots. I like that one. I like the human ingenuity to come up with funny things to say. But I was thinking, man, Blue Apron or one of these services needs to get into robots, where maybe as part of your subscription, and I'm not saying you get a full-on like R2-D2 robot or whatever, but some kind of robotic presence, whether it's an arm or whether it's something that's self-contained that can go on top of on a counter, and it's hooked into, like, for instance, the Blue Apron ecosystem. And so this robot can essentially make your meals if you put the ingredients out in a certain way. That to me is a killer app, because then it's not oppressive to have to finish it. It's not eating into your time, and you're getting the most out of the subscription. You're not worried about the food rotting. It's a really great thing. I think that would be tremendous. The other service I was thinking of, and maybe it's out there, but you almost bring like Uber to the mix in some way. The Uberization aspect, not Uber itself, but maybe your food gets delivered to somebody, and that somebody cooks the meals for 5 to 10 orders in the vicinity of maybe a 10-mile vicinity of where they are based. So my order gets delivered to this person who cooks it, and then maybe they make $5 per meal. So I'm paying $60, and then I'm really paying, maybe I pay $75 to Blue Apron instead, and then they disperse those $15 to the person who cooked it. That would be great. And then it gets delivered to you in some kind of Blue Apron Tupperware system, and it's finished, perfectly prepared. And there would be economy of scale built into this, because they would be able to cook the same meal several times for different people, because you only have a locked in menu for the most part of what you can have on a daily basis. So there would be a lot of efficiency gain there, because they'd be cooking the same thing, and maybe they could do it in bulk. Maybe Blue Apron could work a way where they're sending that person enough for all those meals as opposed to each box. That to me would be great. And then maybe Uber can even deliver the Blue Apron to your house. If it gets delivered finished, it's amazing. The food's great. The problem is, again, is how much it doesn't fill me fully. It's filling, but it doesn't fill me. And maybe I just need a little extra because I really make up for the calories at the end of the day, I guess. It's not filling. And two, the amount you put into it does not justify it. You put so much time into it that it not only should fill you, but you should have enough for several days of food. So that is really where it's kind of where I am with that. Why don't we call it there? We'll do kind of a short one. I got to get going to this game. I'm doing this podcast actually from my bedroom because my wife has a lesson. She teaches music lessons to kids, and when my son is napping down the hall, she needs to do those lessons in the basement so the sound doesn't rise up to his room. And when it's not piano, we do have a piano on the first floor. You'd have no choice about that. But when it's something like her native instrument, like a clarinet, she can do that in the basement, because then it won't come up to the third or to the second floor here, which would be 2 floors above the basement, obviously. So I had to do that here. Not the most comfortable setup for me, but it gets the job done. I got good equipment that can work through it. So again, reach out to your neighbors. You might get great times out of it. You might have people who you can really identify with, and they're close. They're built-in friends. They're right near you. So folks, thanks so much. Matt McQueenie, Mix Minus Podcast. And remember, go get your Big League Pillows at bigleaguepillows.com and use promo code Mix Minus to get free shipping. All right, I'm out, folks. Thanks.